So then, what are you gonna summarize into this chapter this time? And I'm not talking about myself when I say that. Hi, for those who are watching, this is the Angry Anime Fan that is better reviewer, although I mostly is review Eden Zero nowadays, and it's well, I want to say retired, but that's not exactly true. I guess I'm not so much of an influential one. But yeah, this is the Eden Zero chapter 150. Last week, it ended up with a very surprise. Sunlit Rebecca was transported, or at least dreamed, into a dystopian future where not only Shiki was allied together with Master Noah, however, Rebecca in that world had also lost her own personal flesh and blood legs. In fact, Rebecca begins to cry in despair and confusion in not knowing on how this has happened. But the adult Shiki hugs her and saying that he is here for her, which is a very nice shipping scene. I guess this is meant to show that unlike the Natsu and Lucy pair from Fairy Tale, this is more to be associated more with Haru and Ellie from the Raidmaster. Possible shipping that may actually blossom into actual shipping. Even but Noah in this world is saying that it's important for her to know how all this came to be. But of course, as soon as she says that, parts of his words gets unheard of from us. So we only learn bits and pieces, saying that saying that she lost her legs and has been in a coma for years, but we do not know why. More than that, the adult Shiki also says that when it happened, oh, we don't know what happened. Everyone on the Eden Zero dead, meaning that Shiki and this version of Rebecca are the only survivors of Eden Zero, meaning that there was something that happened that not only that indeed killed everyone else. And of course, we do not hear what it is, nor do we get a clue on what it is. Only that adult Shiki is having faith that if anyone can change, it's you. You can make sure this never reaches this future. The biggest question is though, can she? Because and I'm not gonna pull that difficult logic that those that try to prevent the future will eventually fall into that future. No, I'm not pulling that kind of stunt here, because that's not how Eden Zero rolls. It is more like there is always something to learn from the future in order to see that it's getting a new clarity. But here, Rebecca doesn't get a clear clarity on what happened, only that it's a very bad one. So, yeah, will we get this future or will we not? We don't know. Because Rebecca passes out again, now back into her own world of 30 again. And this time she's dressed, showing that Lyra did not sexually harass her enough, well, not enough, or decided to do anything of the sorts, although she may have, but we don't know. Although she has actually decided to dress Rebecca up into a bunny girl outfit. Ha ha ha. I actually did not see that coming, although it's very trend. I hear ponders what she says. She can actually not help but mention how hot Shiki were as a grown up, and that she has the power to change it, although she doesn't know how that world happened. Suddenly, she gets the clear and the view and lights again as Lara has now started her so-called game of the deep sea party, with even some audiences looking around. She's actually gonna stream a game of death and I even know who Rebecca is. Well, granted, she's a beekeeper, so she know. They're gonna stream an unedited fight, so to speak. Um which is it's not exactly known why Laura does this, maybe except for maybe out of pure sadism. But uh, but she's gonna stream a game of that is similar to a fight here, perhaps to demoralize anyone who actually tries to oppose the empire, or make therefore making an example of them, since they are actually well showing all of this, and maybe also gonna show the rebels that teamed up that this is faithless in having faith in them. So I certainly hope that this will actually turn against the arrogant empire. But the game they're gonna be playing is called Lost Card, and the way it's pronounced may actually be the name of Lyra's ether gear, the Lost Card. Although we don't know exactly yet what that game does. We are switching back to Arsenal versus the Night Gear. Nasus has the advantage, as Arsenal has to dodge and his attacks cannot scratch the Night Gear, as it also contains an ether coating similar to Arsenal except way stronger. So, in that scenario, also, despite Arsenal having a cape, it's not that different from its previous model. It's also very strange here that Nasus here seems to mention a lot that kids nowadays don't know the term of a shooting up video game, saying that you were gun walking around, but in the old days, shooting games meant you dodge barrage of enemy fire. So yeah, that's meant to show that Nasus is more like a child than we think. Granted, his the way he uses gear was that of a psychopathic main man child, so I guess it makes sense. Although Weiss doesn't really know because of he a different era. So he says back in my day, shooting games were all about shooting things. And as he realizes that he needs to fire stronger rounds on the night gear, he decides to go in close combat and punches Nash's gear. And although that doesn't work, it does make give him closer and manage to break apart some of the night gear. Because after all, as we all know, his ether gear allows him to modify machines and crash them. When I think about it, that actually makes him even more of a deadly threat against robots. So if Siggy sees, so unless Siggy, of course, has somehow reanimated the old mentor of Weiss, who is now human hating, this is only a theory, mind you, by me, then one of Siggy's biggest priorities should be to take out Weiss. Granted, Weiss has to get close to someone to actually break apart the machines, but still, if you can work on the machines here, then that actually makes him a very big threat to Siggy's plans. So perhaps Siggy is gonna aim to destroy him unless he has that ether gear himself at his display. But it doesn't collapse the entire night gear, but it does break it apart a little bit. Uh, However, doing that also taxed the Arsenal suit too, breaking it apart its helmet. As Nasus sees that Wise is exposed, he's going to hypnotize him again, but it doesn't work because this time Wise were prepared in the other time as well. All the time while he dodged, he actually showed some genius movements, actually creating jammers in the ground to hinder NASA's hypnotic waves, especially since he said in the last chapter that it was electronical signals. So by putting up these jammers, he cannot have to do that. He also modeled the ground, as he does the new version of Million Bullets and blasts away the ether gear. And while we don't exactly see him completely defeat Nasus, especially since the ending of the chapter is kind of badass, but it's still kind of satisfying to see the arrogant Nasus suddenly panic as the ether has reached critical stage on Wise. And the reason why it has entered critical stage is because Wise has entered his own overdrive. Although unlike Shiki's and Homura's, this one is actually not that, well, I want to say stylish. Theirs has more of an animal demon like theme. I don't exactly know how I can possibly describe Wise's overdrive. A superhero theme? Because the best way to describe this is that his pants get armored although that may just be the suit of the arsenal, and has the veins similar and black veins similar to what Homer and Shiki has. Also, that his ether gear is flowing a lot through his hand, who is now very scaly looking, and even the markings are on his face. Other than that, though, it doesn't exactly look that different. Granted, he is still wearing the broken pieces of the Arsenal suit, so I may just be one of it. But the thing is that we see this overdrive just as he shoots Nashus, so we doesn't exactly get a confirmation if this is enough to, well, defeat Nasus. But I hope it is. He was annoying, and I'm not saying that it was a badly written character from it. He was annoying because he was a villain and he needed to be defeated. So yeah, this is basically the chapter. The beginning is one of fear and despair. The rest is though a setup of well, other fights. Yes, the fight against Wise and Nashus may be set up to be finished, but it's also setting up that Wise is a bigger threat to Seaga's plans, as well as that Overdrive can work on those that wield an Arsenal suit. It also showed that the training that everyone did truly did allow them to unlock Overdrive, although it's not exactly yet confirmed if the Overdrive is powerful enough to make them win against the next threat. But it's very likely that both Klein, Laguna, and Chris may also have gotten the overdrive, so maybe we'll see that as well. So what else is there to say? Well, yeah, it's the beginning that is the most worry. It is a very tender scene between adult Shiki and Rebecca, but can they truly prevent the future? Who cut off Rebecca's legs, and what awaits us? Granted, at this point, it does not seem that Lyra was the one who cut off the legs. At this point. And she's gonna play a game that she's gonna stream, which is kind of sadistic. I think that is meant to demoralize anyone who opposes the Empire. But something tells me all of this will turn against her, especially if Rebecca can pull through. The biggest question, though, is will this reveal to every single streamer her ether gear? I'm not so sure that Rebecca has overdrive, though, mind you, especially since she was the only one who still struggled with the tying up scenario. But if her ether gear gets exposed here and identified, isn't it very likely that everyone who sees this will also see it? And I know that sounds very stupid and saying, but what I'm trying to say is she's going to stream this on AOE networks and then around the world, so to speak. So what I'm trying to say is, if everyone sees this, isn't it very possible that the Interstellar will as well? And if her ether gear gets identified, may not the lore of that power get even bigger? Or will it also be very likely that this is what leads up to what Rebecca lost her legs? Because someone sees the ether gear and realizes what it is, the ergo deciding that it's too dangerous for her to have. All speculation, and given how Hiroshima writes, we shouldn't actually expect any of that. It's a bit too complicated. Not saying that Hiroshima is a bad writer, it's just that he prefers the simple route, not the deep lore thing. That is not his style. So we'll just see. But yeah, the fight scene against Nashus was cool. And Wise has the overdrive as well. I just hope Nashus is defeated. Next fight, Lyra versus Lucy. Sorry, did I just say Lucy? I fell into that trap. Lyra versus Rebecca. Can she win? Give me your thoughts if you have any.